should have this map should elect a solid 19 Republican majority. You know, when you're doing redistricting, there's always decisions to make. You can stretch and make a map that will elect more Republicans within the law, but knowing that demographics change and a lot happens in 10 years, if we get greedy and we draw a map that's too spread too thin, then that catches up with us before the decade is out. So you'll see that map Senator Huffman filed. You'll also see an amendment to it. And again, it's all online. Just go to that website, have fun. A lot of interesting information there. There's also the map for the State Board of Education proposed in the Texas Senate. But again, all these bills have to go through the Senate and the House and be signed by the governor. Now, today at 10 o'clock, there's a redistricting committee hearing today, Friday at 10 o'clock in the Senate, to consider that Senate map. And tomorrow, Saturday at 9 a.m., a hearing to consider that State Board of Education map. So just be aware that's out there. And again, very soon the Texas House will have a map to look at, and they'll hash that out and send it over to us. Also, of course, the one that gets fought about quite a bit is the U.S. congressional map. As you know, today we have 36 members of the U.S. Congress based in Texas, and we're going to have 38 because we picked up 2 seats in redistricting. So you'll be seeing a number of proposed maps for that very soon. Those have not been filed, but they're being, people are looking at the numbers and crunching them. So you'll see that soon. We're hoping we can get all these maps passed in this special session. We realize that it may not happen. It may take another special session, but we hope to get it done this time. Now, what about the timing? What about the primary? As you know, if these maps are not done in time, then they will delay our primary. We won't be able to have a March primary. And of course, that also delays the runoff for those races that end up in a runoff for the primary. So that happened to us in 2012. You'll recall there was litigation over redistricting, and it extended the primary season and pushed everything back. So that could happen again, but we are working to have the maps completed this time in plenty of time. Whatever we do is going to end up in court, but that's fine. We are not afraid of a court challenge. We're going to follow the law and the Constitution. The Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, has changed the law somewhat since we were here the last time. In the past, there were rules about political gerrymandering, drawing lines to favor one party or the party in power or certain parties. And there were all kinds of rules about that. The Supreme Court has since told us that political gerrymandering, drawing lines to favor the party in power, that's okay. That's political. The voters elect a majority from that party. That's what the voters want. But of course, racial gerrymandering, drawing lines to hurt or help one race, one language group, one ethnic group. Of course, that's against the law. It's also wrong. We don't do that. We're not going to do that. So there's no concern about that. So the process is moving quickly, and that's where we are. We look forward to seeing that House map very soon, Texas House, and also soon expect to see a U.S. congressional map. The good news is Texas is a conservative state. We are a center-right state. Conservatives continue to come to Texas because of the opportunity and freedom God continues to bless, and your involvement still makes a difference. So that's where we are. And if you have any questions, any concerns about that Senate map, reach out to your senator. Of course, reach out to me, and I'll convey it to the senator that covers the area. But reach out to your senator, and of course, for the House, to your House member, for concerns about the State Board of Education map that's been presented, or for the congressional map that we'll see soon. Of course, talk to your House members and your senators. And as you know, of course, that Senate map that will also have the effect that will also control the SREC districts. I know you realize that, but those SREC districts will follow those Senate districts. So keep that in mind also when you look at that map. If you have questions, concerns about that, make sure and talk to your senator about that. And that's a little update on where we are. I'm looking forward to hearing from Deon, and happy to fill in and help as much as I can. I don't think she's going to need any help. She knows this stuff pretty well, but happy to participate.
Thank you, Senator. Really appreciate that. And Deon. So Deon Starnes is joining us, and she is on SREC, and she has several hats that she wears, but she's got some information for us. Deon, how are you this morning?
Well, I am good.
Oh,
It's
good.
7 a.m, so I'm not quite sure how good I am, but I'm good.
We really appreciate you getting up so early and joining us and bringing all the information that you have. I was wondering, we discussed the other day, what did you find out about when a precinct gets divided in redistricting?
So if I understand, and Senator Hughes is probably going to have to help me on this one, but counties do not start their redistricting until after the state has done theirs. And they are pretty well held to staying within the boundaries of what is passed by the state legislature. So you don't want to move district lines where it moves it across, because when they're drawing their lines, they're having to do several different things, including population. There's a target population. So there doesn't need to be a whole bunch of changes that would switch one precinct or, split precincts into a different district. So they're pretty well held within the confines of what the state does to make sure that those conform. Ryan, do I have that right?
No, that's right. And so if you think about that, you're once those district lines are drawn for the Texas Senate, Texas House, but once those all come out, then our county commissioners courts, with the benefit of that, they will then be making changes to precinct lines. And you're right. When we do these lines, we try not to split, take an existing precinct and mess it up and put it in more than one district, or we try to respect those things, especially when it comes to those U.S. congressional seats, since those have to be perfectly balanced to a person. It gets kind of difficult. And that's why, of course, you know what it's like. So many people you can have neighbors and you're in the same House district, but you're in different Senate districts or different congressional districts. But it ultimately, drawing those precinct lines falls on the county commissioners court. But as you say, they cannot do that until they get the district lines from us. As far as making tweaks, making changes to those. But you're right, the county will do that, respecting the lines that we've drawn after we get these lines done.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think one of the issues that, Deon has seen a district where they've gone out and they've sort of cut this precinct in half, and that's why we were visiting about that. And then we had an interesting conversation too, Deon. Can you discuss with all of the callers that are calling in this morning, what is the impact on the SREC member whenever your district's whenever it's redistricting around Texas?
Well, as an SREC member, so my current district, I have 11 state reps and 9 congressmen in addition to my senator. And as a SREC rep, I have a relationship with all of those people. So it helps during legislative session. It helps when I'm going around the district to keep them informed, right? It also helps when I know this new map is going to give me, I'm going to lose some and I'm going to gain one who happens to be a Democrat, Michelle Beckley, the most liberal of the Democrats in the House. So part of what I'm already doing is looking at the numbers and is it flippable, and is it something, it almost, by the last map, almost she didn't win by very much. So is it flippable? What can I do? What can I how can I shore that area up? Because for the SREC, part of our job description, I guess, for lack of a better word, is that we are working to expand and grow the party and to support those principles in which we all agree on. So that's going to be a huge thing. I'm also going from 9 congressmen down to, I think, 5. So that will be interesting. You know, on the statewide level, it also helps us to know, once we see those maps, where are we going to put our resources? The RPT for get out the vote, for getting our Republican guys elected.
Well, that's a big impact. Do you know, does it make any difference to the state party how it's redistricted? Does that impact the state party?
So the state party doesn't have a role in redistricting, but it absolutely does in terms of allocating our resources, our money, our time, our efforts, our energy. We need to support our guys. We need to know, again, like on the SREC level, we're looking at districts, what can be flipped, not just for the House and the Senate, but on our county commissioners level, on our what JPs are there down ballot races that we need to focus on to help start something turning red, for instance, or is there a red county that's in trouble now with specific districts? So yeah, it absolutely is gonna, we'll be probably running those numbers and looking at it. I'm sure that the head honchos are already running those statewide, where I'm just doing it in my area in North Texas. So.
And then can you talk to us a little bit about the data you can find on the new district, the different sites that they can access to find data?
Yeah, so I believe you were asking this because I had said it looks like, I ran numbers, and it looks like my district, Senate District 30, is going from a approximately 75% district down to maybe a 59. And now that was based on the first map, not the amended map. I zoom in. So you can go in when you're looking at that redistricting map, you can click precincts to the left under where it has the plan number. You can click precincts and zoom in and see what all precincts there are in that particular district. Every precinct, if you zoom in close enough on every county, you can see every one. With that information, I go look up what that precinct did. And I don't just run the Trump numbers for 2020. I usually run the Cornyn numbers to see how they correlate. And then I usually pick a race that's kind of innocuous, one that's not emotional, that we just get solid Republican numbers to see how it did. So you can do all of that. You can actually, if you click on, so if I click on 30, on the redistricting map, I can tell what the total Anglo population is versus, or that voted in the general election versus the VAP, the voting age population, non-Anglo, Asian, Black, Hispanic. I'm not really sure, Brian, what is B plus H? Do you know?
Sure. So black plus Hispanic. So more of a total minority population. As you guys know, we would prefer to do this completely colorblind and just ignore race. But unfortunately, the Voting Rights Act forces us to look at people and slice and dice them based on their race. And so, what those numbers mean to us when we're drawing the lines, we draw the lines without looking at race initially, and then we go back and take a look and make sure that the lines we've drawn didn't have the effect of making it harder for minority candidates to get elected. If there's a district that is electing, if there's a majority minority district and they're electing their candidate of choice, we've got to make sure we don't draw those lines in a way, that makes it harder for those folks to do that. So that's what those numbers are for. And again, as you say, they're helpful for us after the fact to look and just see how the population is shifting. But B plus H on that category is Black plus Hispanic.
Got it. Okay. See, that I did not know. I will say that being able to look at this information at the top of that, it tells me what the total population is. So for like District 30 for Plan the amended plan, the total voters or the total population is 963,964. So we're one of the highest in North Texas. The target is around 940,000, I believe, and it's showing a deviation of 2.5%. So unlike the congressional maps, which have to be down to a person, these are, they have the ability to have a certain percentage of deviation. And I mean, there's one, I think 31, which is West Texas, is only like 910,000. So it kind of gives you an idea where you can be and what the population you're going to be representing or that will be in your represented area. So does that kind of give you what you needed, Bisa?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful to know that, you know, you can go to the district viewer there in the Texas Ledge Council, and then underneath that, you can get the precinct information. And then is it correct? You have to go to like Secretary of State and look at the precincts.
So you can, and you can go to the actual, like Denton County, Collin County, almost every single county, not every county, but most 99% of the counties in Texas have their data up on a website for elections. And you can go look at individual precincts and find out how that precinct voted. And then it kind of gives you a good overlay. I think, you know, it also gives a good idea of how homogenous is the district in terms of issues, you know, where they fall. Because a lot of times, I think we discuss this during elections early on, it's not always a liberal conservative line. Sometimes it's a rural urban line, right? Different concerns.
That's right. That's right. And something that you mentioned, Deon, that's important. I know people get this, but you were talking about Senate District 30 and how it went from it's a less Republican district now than it was. What you were talking about those numbers, I think, right? It went from,
Yep, I did 74 to 75 down to like 59, I think.
Right. And so we look at President Trump numbers, for example, and you look at what it was, a 74% Republican district, and now it's a 59% Republican district. And people think, well, why did you do that? Why did you weaken that district? Well, obviously, we're going to respect the law and the Constitution and draw lines based on where people live. Within those rules, though, if we have a district if we have a 90% Republican district, this is a hypothetical. Say we have a 90% Republican district and a 50% Republican district next door. And again, we're not talking about race. We're just talking about politics. But if you have a 90% Republican district and a 50% Republican district, it's worth at least taking a look to see if some of those folks in the 90% district could be over in the 50% district and make those both more, weaken the 90 and strengthen the 50. Now, that's an exaggerated example. That's an extreme example. There are not going to be districts like that. But the point is, if a district has a sufficient number to elect, the voters' candidate of choice, and if we're drawing lines from a Republican standpoint, the Democrats do the same thing from the Democratic standpoint. Mm-hmm. But ideally, if you want a district that's strong enough and is a good, solid Republican district, but if it's a super duper high Republican district, and there's a sense in which you are wasting those Republican voters having them in that particular district. So all these decisions all these factors go into the process. And districts like mine over in rural Texas, Senate District 1, if you look at the Trump numbers in my district and the new district they proposed, President Trump got 73.9%. And I thought we were going to be the highest in the state. But Senator Robert Nichols, just south of me, in District 3, is 73.5, I believe. But then the Panhandle District, the Amarillo Midland Panhandle District that Senator Kel Seliger represents, it's 74.1. They beat us by a little bit. So not surprisingly, in those rural parts of the state, you'll see the highest Republican numbers. But in those fast growth suburban areas like yours, Deon, of course, a lot of Republicans as well, and Republicans all over the state. We just want to draw lines that are fair and keep people in communities of interest. And as we do that, that makes sure we have a map that reflects the voting patterns of Texas. And that's why the Senate map is drawn like it is. It should elect a solid 19 Republican majority in the Texas Senate.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, because whenever you go and you look at the districts, the original plan, there was I think it's 19 of the senatorial districts were either non-Anglo Hispanic or Black and Hispanic majority. So the Anglo districts are not the majority as by the population demographic. So I thought that, I think that shows what a lot of the other side had been testifying to, that they wanted more diversity. And if you look at the districts, they are in fact diverse.
They are. It's important.
Okay. So Deon, can you give the callers, you've already gave them some tips on like characteristics that they might want to look in their districts. What are some of the tips you can give on what to look for and how to be effective in testimony?
Okay, so and while I understand what Senator Hughes is saying, and it makes a lot of sense, right? We're trying to make sure that we're getting things a little more equal across the state. One of the districts, which is not mine, but they are in our district currently. It's a small rural county, not that small, I guess Midland. It's about 70,000 people. And they're being put in a district with Highland Park in Dallas. And I've spent quite a bit of time with the county judge there. The people are not happy. And so I've just told them, go testify, do the written testimony. There is a link where you can submit written testimony now, and just, make your case. I mean, they don't have a whole lot in common with Highland Park. They're more worried about the weight of the trucks on the roads and how much it costs to repair a road, or water restrictions. I'm fairly certain Highland Park never gets put on water restrictions like this county. Feral hogs. I highly doubt that Highland Park has an issue with feral hogs. And I think that, the county judge was making the point. He's like, if we get somebody from Highland Park in this district, we're not going to be represented. So my advice to him was kind of lay out what the differences are, because the population in Highland Park is greater than what it is in this little county. So there is some concerns. So look at how it is written out. What are the differences that give you heartburn? Why are you unhappy with it? Write it down in a logical fashion. Guys, they're not trying to hurt you. They are trying to make it more even and fair across the state. So if you've got concerns, start looking at the characteristics versus the characteristics of what you're put in, and give specifics. Again, Highland Park isn't going to have a feral hog running down the street. And yet this poor little county has feral hogs doing great damage to their farms and their ranches.
Thank you, Deon. Yeah, that's a really important part. And I think if you have an issue, be sure and get your voice in the room. All right, Karen Marshall says we've got questions. So Karen, you want to put Senator Hughes and Deon on the hot seat?
Indeed. The first question out of the chute came before the meeting even started. Andrew asks, when do we expect the first House and congressional maps to be released and for the hearings to occur on these maps?
Ryan?
And so the yes, ma'am. And so the Senate maps, because obviously 31 Texas Senate districts, 150 House districts. I know everyone on the call knows this. So those Senate maps, they're not easy to draw, but they are easier to draw. And so I can tell you what's been happening in the House. The chairman of the Redistricting Committee, Chairman Todd Hunter, state rep from Corpus Christi, has asked each region, whether that's East Texas or Dallas-Fort Worth or Greater Houston, he's asked each region, asked the reps there to come up with proposals for what they would like their area to look like. Of course, they know the area. They listen to their constituents locally. And then with those, and this is a general sense of what they're doing. This is not a formal process, but then taking those regional proposals from each area and stitching them together into a statewide map. And that process is going on now. They're getting pretty close. So I think in a matter of days, we're going to see something. We're going to see a proposed map for the Texas House. And then, of course, hearing of that committee to look at that map. They've already had the House and Senate have already had a lot of hearings. To to hear testimony, hear people's thoughts on what the maps ought to look like. But once that proposed map for the Texas House comes out, I think it will be just a matter of days. Then there'll be hearings, and again, very soon you'll also see proposed maps for the U.S. House.
All right. The next question is, what is the purpose of the new Select Committee on Youth, Health, and Safety?
So over in the House, as you know, that's a select committee, a committee they've set up, and the regular session and the first two special sessions got a whole lot done, important things to Texans, to conservatives, pardon me, to the grassroots. Of course, we still have not seen a final bill passed on protecting girls' sports. You think about K through 12, and the idea that today a student who is born a male but says they want to identify as a female can compete in girls' sports and compete against the girls. Obviously, a lot of problems with that, from the competition to the locker room. Now, the UIL, as you know, the University Interscholastic League, the state entity that regulates school sports, has a rule in place to prevent this, but it's only a UIL rule. Does not have the force of law of a statute. And so we have a bill that the governor put on the call again that has passed the Senate to say that you play sports in school, you play sports against students that have the same biological sex as you have. It's so odd that we have to use these terms, but your sex at birth determines whether you compete against the boys or the girls. So I believe that committee set up in the House to hear that bill, to focus on that bill.
Excellent. All right. Ben asks, where can I find a file or information that correlates census districts to precincts so that I can make precise comments on SB4?
So that website, that redistricting.capital.texas.gov, has got the most information in one place. And again, it's going to be based on the plans that have been submitted. And over time, even over the next days, especially once that House map is released, you're going to see other maps that are filed, amendments that are filed, and you'll see, because any member of the legislature, any state rep, any senator can file amendments, just like amending a bill. And so you'll see some maps that change the whole state. You'll see other maps that change only part of the state, only one county, only one district. So those are going to begin to show up on that website very quickly. And so that the most information available is going to be on that website.
All right, and somebody kindly answered the next question in the chat. SSVR stands for Spanish Surname Voter Registration. Wow.
Yes, that's right.
All right. The next question Andrew asked is, isn't Beckley running for Congress now and not State House?
That is correct. She has announced she's running for Congress. She announced that from her hotel in D.C. while they were in D.C. to delay the voting election integrity bill. And so that's right. So she will not be running in that seat. And as Deon noted, it's been a swing district. Representative Ron Simmons represented that district well. And in 2018, Michelle Beckley, the Democrat, narrowly edged him out. You guys remember 2018, pretty tough year for us in the suburbs across America, not just in Texas. And so we had a great candidate in 2022. In 2020, we thought we'd win that back, and we still came up a little short. But yes, Beckley will not be running. And so we hope that district is going to end up getting better in redistricting. But even under its current configuration, a Republican should be able to win that. But it will be an open seat. You're correct. Beckley has announced she's going to challenge Congressman Beth Van Dyne. I look forward to that race.
Yeah, me too.
Yeehaw! All right. Rebecca asks, why is Guadalupe County going to be moved with South Bexar County and the far west counties? Then we will not be represented.
I understand. And so, specific questions like that on a particular map, you're doing the right thing by asking those questions. Let me go back and look, and we can also talk to the senators that are in that area. And again, those lines, population shifts, those lines have to be drawn, and it gets tough sometimes. Invariably, there are Republicans that end up in Democratic districts, and of course, Democrats that end up in Republican districts. And again, we understand that's especially when a county has been in a Republican district and it ends up in one that may be represented by a Democrat. Those changes are made to make population balance because the districts have to be all pretty much the same size. Let me go back and look in more detail because I confess I did not focus as much on that part of the map. I was looking more at Northeast Texas. Let me go back and see, but I believe that was made to make the population balance in the two districts.
And then so since I'm on the East Coast right now, I've had a little extra hour this morning. So I was looking around the district viewer and everything. And there has been an amendment put in on that Senate map. And I don't know if they did it late last night, but Guadalupe County is now divided between 3 different senatorial districts. So it's divided between 25, which is Senator Campbell's, between 19, I'm not sure who that is, and then again it's been divided into 21, which is Zaffarini's. So there's already been adjustments. So if you're in Guadalupe County, you might look at that amended map and see where you are in that too.
And also let Senator Campbell know your thoughts on that, because we can amendments like that can still be offered. We can still make adjustments to those maps, subject to the population limits.
Okay,
All
Karen.
right.
I'm waiting for
Ben
you.
asks, for
Sorry.
U.S. congressional districts, what is the allowable population deviation?
Great question. It's interesting. The concept of one person, one vote applies everywhere, but it applies much more strictly in U.S. congressional districts. So in Texas House and Senate districts, there can be a 10% deviation between the highest population district and the lowest population district. So there's the ideal, but the biggest population of a Texas House, Texas Senate district cannot be more than 10% different than the lowest population. That's what we're allowed for Texas House and Senate. For U.S. Congress, they've got to be balanced perfectly. So within one person, they all have to have the same population. That's why for those that's why you'll see a lot more county split. You'll see cities, you'll see neighborhoods, subdivisions split, because we have to balance them to a person. That's why the congressional map takes a lot longer for us to draw.
All right. The next question is from David. Are we pushing to get 2 Republican districts Or are we giving up and going with one Democrat and one Republican for the new districts that we are gaining in Texas?
Okay, great question. And we haven't seen the map yet. We are picking up two, and we can safely assume that in general, one of those new districts will be in North Texas, let's say Greater Dallas-Fort Worth, one probably in the Houston area. And of course, then that shifts everything else once the new districts are put in there. So I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, are we pushing for two Republican districts? Of course. I don't know what the final map is going to look like. Again, we're glad to be in a conservative state with a conservative majority. And so the lines are going to reflect the voting patterns of Texas, which is what the law says we're supposed to do. So we haven't seen a final proposal on the U.S. congressional map, but we're going to follow the law and make that as Republican a map as we can.
All right. And there's another county specific question. Will Upshur stay with SD1?
Oh, thank you so much. So under the current proposal for the Texas Senate, Upshur County will stay in Senate District 1. That's certainly where I'd like it to stay. I love representing Upshur County. And so under the current map, very little change to Upshur County, very little change to Senate District 1, no change to Upshur County. So under the every map I've seen, Upshur County would stay in Senate District 1. I like it that way.
All right. And next question. After redistricting is finished, will TOS HB 17 and other election integrity bills be considered?
Yeah, very good question. We've had that discussion. You may have seen where the president wrote a letter asking that to be added to the call as far as the forensic audit. There's an amendment by Representative Slayton that was added to Senate Bill 1 during the regular session, during the last special session, and it provides for audits going forward. The language is interesting because it says starting in 2022, but then it says you can go back. It says you go back 2 years. So some of the lawyers have looked at that, and the Secretary of State looked at that and said, this may already give us the authority to do the 2020 forensic audit. If not, then it can be added. So I don't know the final answer. I know the governor wants to do it, and I think his office is trying to figure out the best way to do it. So I don't know exactly when. We may find out that the Secretary of State already has the authority and they're planning to do it. But if not, I think you're going to see that. You're going to see that addressed. It's obviously something that the people of Texas want, something we want.
All right. And somebody else sounding worried about their county. What will happen with Travis County in redistricting?
Okay, very interesting. So currently for the Texas Senate map, for the Texas Senate, you have western Travis County out by the lake, historically more Republican area. That's represented by Senator Dawn Buckingham. She lives there, and the district goes all the way out to Abilene, down into central Texas in that current map. And then the more Democratic areas of Travis County represented by Senator Sarah Eckhart. And then you have Senator Campbell with part of southern Travis County, and also Senator Zaffarini, who comes up from Laredo into southern Travis County. In the new Senate proposal, that western Travis County portion, Westlake, out by the lake, that Senator Buckingham has today, you see that moved into Senator Campbell's district. So Senator Donna Campbell, a conservative Republican, of course, from San Antonio, under the new proposal, she'll pick up a whole lot more of Travis County than she had before. So that will be a Bexar County, a suburban Bexar County, Travis County district, some rural counties as well. So that's the biggest change for Travis County. So Travis County would basically go, if I see the map right, from having 4 senators to having 3 senators, 2 Republican, 1 Democrat. That's under the Texas Senate map. Under the congressional map, it's also divided, as you know, into multiple congressmen, Republicans and a Democrat. And I don't know what it's going to look like for in the congressional map, but we're going to see very soon. In the Texas House map, it's gone back and forth over the years. There are right now 6 Texas House districts based in Travis County, one was drawn to elect a Republican, and the rest were drawn to elect Democrats. And even that Republican district, we lost in 2018. And so I don't know what the final decision is going to be, whether they'll draw one Republican district or two Republican districts. We're going to see that, again, speaking of the Texas House, we're going to see that Texas House map very soon. I'm curious about it myself.
I have a little news flash. So I believe Representative Jeton is on with us. So, so Representative Jeton, would you speak to us a little bit about redistricting and what's going on?
Yeah, sure. Sorry I'm late. It's Fort Bend County Fair Day, and so we're prepping for the parade, and so you can see the kids are all ready to go and everything. So we're gonna head out there in a little bit. I'm not sure what all has been talked about on the House side. I know Senator Hughes has the Senate side down pretty well, and they seem to be making pretty good progress. But with 150 members on our side, it takes us a little bit longer to get this map kind of put together. We're going through that process right now. We had hearings over the last several weeks since the last special session. I believe that our goal is to get that map out there middle of next week. So we're still going through that process, but we're still accepting feedback. I'm sure Senator Hughes mentioned this, but the feedback's largely around making sure that we're keeping those communities of interest together, addressing, making sure that these districts best represent and, fairly represent the people that are within it. And so that's why the legislature plays a role in putting these together. We know our districts and our constituents know our districts. And so we need to hear from y'all as we go through this process to make sure that we have fair districts. We follow the county line rule pretty strictly on the House side. That's going to make things a little more interesting as we go through this process, as there's been tremendous growth around the state, making sure that within the counties, if they can wholly fit within there, then they must wholly fit within there and not end up breaking in to change that. And so don't have a whole lot to report yet, as the maps aren't done, so I can't necessarily talk about how these things are going to look. That there's no final map yet, and so and that's about all we have on the House side so far. And I hope that by next Friday, we'll have actual maps out there and we can talk about more specifics about what's going to be in those.
Do you think you'll have the House maps and the congressional maps?
We will have the House map. So, we're constitutionally required to have the Senate and House done. And that's what we're first going to focus on. And then after that, we'll work on those congressional and SBOE maps. And I know that's at least the focus for the House side. I don't know if the Senate's going to end up pushing out other maps, and they may already have done so. But I know on the House side, we're focused on this House map.
Great.
There's 150 of us to wrangle through, so.
That's a big job.
We're glad to hear that, because the first question out of the box today, before the meeting even started, was when would those maps be released?
Yeah, I'd look at Wednesday or Thursday. And the sooner we get those finalized, the better, and we'll get those out there, because I know we want y'all to see it and to be able to provide that feedback. But we want to make sure we get this as right as possible, and it's based on the testimony we've heard, and so your input has been valuable as we've gone through this process.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and giving us a look into what's going on at the House. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Sorry again, I was late.
That's okay. We understand about those community parades. They're very important.
Yeah.
All right. It's 8:54 right now. Senator Hughes, do you have any other closing comment you'd like to make?
No, thank you so much. It's been a great discussion and great questions. And I know there's going to be more come up, and we'll do our best. And folks can, of course, email your senator, your rep, anybody's free to email me, and I'll confer with your senator on anything like that. And email us, call us, let us know what you think. We're happy with where the process is today.
Thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody that Stephanie Click, Chairman Click, was on with us, but somehow I removed her and was not able to get her back on. So hopefully we'll get that straightened out before the next meeting. I apologize for my technical inabilities. So looking at our action items, we talked about last week going locally and figuring out what was happening in your county, in your city. And, I reached out to our county and, they're waiting to see what the House and the Senate does, and then they'll redo their precincts. Many of these counties will go ahead and, like our county, they contracted with an attorney, a legal firm to actually do the precincts. But I encourage y'all, if you have ideas about your precincts, reach out to your city and county officials and make sure that they're taking into consideration the same issues. So your action items is keep looking on that redistricting website that Senator Hughes gave us, and watch it's changing, because like I said this morning, last night when I went to bed, there was only one Senate map. This morning when